A lot has changed in the US over the past year, but one question blazes through it all. How is the country burned? That's what our group set out to uncover when doing our final project. Our motivation was to analyze fire patterns in the United States, especially in the wake of climate change. Regarding what our visualization allows that others may not necessarily is the fact that, by specifically plotting the exact locations of where fires occurred, we are able to highlight these natural disaster patterns in a finer grain of detail than if we'd simply done an aggregated choropleth map based on our total fire counts. Additionally, a choropleth map would have blurred the difference between a state with fewer, brighter, and likely bigger fires, and another state with many, less bright, and likely smaller fires. In our visualization, we decided to encode the fire brightness in both the size of the fire marker as well as their color, with the saturation being a bit more intuitive, with yellow being the brightest fires as well as red being the least bright. In terms of the interactive elements, we decided to add a minimum brightness slider. This was the most difficult aspect to implement due to having to reload the data every single time we adjust it. As you can see here, it's a little bit slow. However, once you get to these larger values, you can see how the brightest fires are all on the west coast, but when you look at all the fires in general, there's many on the southeastern portion as well. We've added this dynamic line graph that updates in accordance with the region you choose, as well as your minimum brightness. You can see the average brightness by month for that region. We've also added a season filter, so you can see the seasonal patterns of fires across the country. And the final thing we implemented is the tooltip where you could view the brightness of the fire, as well as the date, and then the state and the latitude and longitude. So, despite the common narrative that California and the West Coast are the most fire-prone regions in the country, our visualization complicates that story. Because we chose not to use a choropleth map, we can clearly see that the Southeast experiences far denser clusters of fire events, while the West shows fewer but often brighter burns. Our map doesn't label which fires are prescribed or uncontrolled, but these contrasts in density and brightness hint at very different fire regimes across the country. Historically, many Western states restricted cultural and prescribed burning for over a century, while in the Southeast, these practices continued as a routine land management tool. Understanding this broader context helps make sense of the patterns we see on our map, and that leads to the biggest takeaway. Fire isn't only a destructive force, it can also be part of a healthy landscape, and by understanding where and how fires burn, we can start shifting the narrative from fear towards informed management. Fire isn't the enemy, mismanaged fire is.